You are here, and that alone says something important about you. It says that some part of you recognizes that something needs to change, that there is a dimension of your health that has been ignored, avoided, or treated with shame, when it should be treated with the same seriousness with which you treat your nutrition, your sleep, your exercise. My name is Dr. Beto. I am a clinical sexologist, and in the next few minutes, I am going to invite you to look directly at something that no one ever taught you in school, in your family, in church, in the doctor's office, or in therapy. I am going to speak to you about orgasm as a clinical tool for mental health, not as a taboo, not as a sin, not as a weakness, as health, as science, as care, as a right. Before anything else, I need you to answer some questions for yourself. You do not need to say them out loud, just feel the truth of each one inside your body as I speak. Do you wake up tired even after sleeping? Do you feel a background anxiety, the kind that has no name and no apparent reason, that is there when you open your eyes in the morning, that follows you through the day, that keeps you from being present in the moments that should feel good? Do you find it difficult to feel pleasure in small things, a good meal, a piece of music that moves you, a conversation that touches your heart? Do you catch yourself repeating patterns in your relationships, drawing the same painful dynamics toward you with different people? Do you feel an emptiness without apparent reason, a sense that something is missing, but you cannot name what it is? Do you have blocks in your creativity, in your capacity to generate, to produce, to bring to life the things that genuinely matter to you? Do you feel disconnected from your own body, as if you live from the neck up, as if your body is just a vehicle you use to get from place to place, and not a living being with its own wisdom, its own feelings, its own need to be inhabited? If you said yes to any of those questions, or to all of them, then you need to hear what I have to say. Because what you are living is not just stress. It is not just a lack of discipline or willpower. It is not a character flaw. It is a nervous system regulation crisis. And one of the most silent and most powerful contributing causes of that crisis is the chronic deprivation of conscious sexual pleasure. Let me show you what happens in your body and in your mind when pleasure is chronically repressed, mechanized, or neglected. When you move through your days without allowing yourself to feel genuine pleasure, without touching your own body with attention and care, without experiencing the full cycle of desire, arousal, and orgasm with presence, your autonomic nervous system enters a state of scarcity. The prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of creativity, decision-making, and empathy, reduces its activity. Cortisol, the hormone of chronic stress, remains chronically elevated. And here is something most doctors never tell you. Chronically elevated cortisol literally shrinks the hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for emotional memory and learning. It compromises your capacity to form healthy emotional bonds. It increases systemic inflammation. It fragments your sleep. It dulls your ability to feel pleasure in anything at all. This is called anhedonia, and it is one of the central symptoms of depression. Now I want to ask you something. If a doctor told you there was a natural, free, accessible, side-effect-free practice that significantly reduces cortisol, raises dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins, improves sleep quality, reduces anxiety and inflammation, strengthens the immune system, increases self-esteem, expands creativity, and improves the capacity for emotional bonding, would you practice it every day with seriousness and intention? Of course you would. That practice exists, and it is called conscious orgasm. But before I teach you how to cultivate that practice, I need to explain something fundamental. There is an enormous difference between the mechanical, rushed, and dissociated orgasm and the conscious, present, and integrated orgasm. And that difference is the difference between medicine and poison, between healing and numbing, between health and compulsion. The mechanical orgasm is the one you seek as a discharge. a pressure valve, a quick escape from discomfort. You are distracted. Your mind is somewhere else. You are seeking external stimulation. You are anxious to get to the end quickly, without breathing deeply, without feeling your own body, without any presence at all. That kind of orgasm can, paradoxically, elevate cortisol after the discharge, because the nervous system never completed its regulation cycle. It creates a pattern of compulsive pleasure-seeking that exhausts quickly and never truly satisfies. It is the same neurological pattern as addiction to sugar, to social media scrolling, to any behavior that promises quick relief but increases craving over time. The conscious orgasm is completely different. It is the one you cultivate with presence, with breath, with attention to your own body, with therapeutic intention. It is the one you do not seek as escape, but as encounter. An encounter with yourself, with your own life force, with your capacity to feel, to be, to exist fully inside your own body. This orgasm activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, and regenerate mode of your body. It promotes the release of oxytocin, the hormone of bonding, of trust, and of emotional safety. It reorganizes emotional patterns in the subconscious. It dissolves what Wilhelm Reich called muscular armor. Wilhelm Reich was one of the greatest psychiatrists of the 20th century, a student of Freud, who developed a revolutionary theory about how repressed emotions install themselves literally in the body as chronic muscular tensions. As an invisible armor you build throughout your life, every time you swallow a tear, every time you suppress a sound, every time you push down a desire, every time you deny your body the right to feel. This muscular armor, according to Reich, is the physical substrate of neurosis. It is what keeps you from breathing deeply. It is what creates the rigidity you feel in your neck, your shoulders, your abdomen, your pelvis, your legs. It is what blocks the flow of life energy through your body. And here is where the wisdom of spiritual traditions across cultures enters. The tantric traditions of India, which have influenced Western spiritual seekers for generations, knew long before modern neuroscience that sexual energy is not separate from creative energy, from spiritual energy, from the force that animates life itself. In tantric philosophy, this energy is called Shakti, and it is the primordial creative force of the universe. The Taoist traditions of China called it Jing, the most refined essence of life force, the energy from which all vitality, all creativity, all spiritual development emerges. The indigenous traditions of the Americas held the body as sacred ground, and pleasure as part of the covenant between the human being and the living world. These traditions did not separate sexual health from mental health, from spiritual health, from the health of the community. They understood them as one continuous flow. Napoleon Hill, in his classic Think and Grow Rich, dedicated an entire chapter to what he called the transmutation of sexual energy. Hill observed that the most accomplished men and women in history, in art, in business, in science, in human relations, were not people who repressed their sexual energy, but people who learned to channel that energy with intention and mastery. Osho, whose philosophy of conscious embodiment influenced an entire generation of spiritual seekers in the English-speaking world, said that sexual energy is the most primal energy that exists, and that repressing it is repressing life itself. Wallace Wattles, in The Science of Getting Rich, spoke of a formative intelligence that permeates all things, and that the person who learns to operate from their full life force becomes a creative agent in the world in a way that far exceeds effort and willpower alone. All of this converges on the same point. Your sexual energy and your creative energy, your financial energy, your relational energy, your vital energy, they are the same energy. When you block one, you block all of them. And when you learn to cultivate and flow with that energy consciously and intentionally, you begin to experience transformations that seem miraculous, but are simply the result of a regulated nervous system, an unarmored body, and a reprogrammed subconscious. Neglecting your conscious sexual life is not just leaving pleasure aside, it is neglecting your mental health. It is letting cortisol rise. It is letting the muscular armor settle deeper into your tissues. It is letting the subconscious run the old programs of scarcity, of fear, of unworthiness, of disconnection. It is depriving your nervous system of the deepest reset that nature has placed at your disposal. And now, I want to lead you through 5 therapeutic practices. You can follow these practices right now as you listen to me. If you are lying down, stay lying down. If you want to close your eyes, close them. Give yourself the permission to be completely here. The first practice is called pelvic breathing to dissolve muscular armor. This is the most fundamental practice of all because it is breath that begins to undo the blocking. Bring your attention to your abdomen. Place one hand on your belly, just below your navel. Now inhale slowly through your nose, and as you inhale, let your belly expand like a balloon filling with air. Do not push from the chest. Let the air descend deep, down into the abdomen, down into the pelvis. When you inhale deeply enough, you will feel the pelvic floor expand slightly, as if the floor of your pelvis is gently opening. Now exhale slowly through your mouth, with your lips slightly parted, with a soft sound, like a sigh of relief. As you exhale, let the pelvis relax completely. Do this 3 times. Inhale deeply down into the pelvis. Exhale with a sigh of relief. Inhale. Exhale, inhale, exhale. Each exhalation is a permission. Permission for your body to release what is no longer needed, the accumulated tensions, the emotions that were swallowed, the old stories. Now, on the next inhale, imagine you are breathing in a warm, golden light that travels down your spine, passes through your heart, descends through your abdomen, and settles in your pelvis like a living flame. And on the exhale, imagine that light expanding through your entire body, reaching the tips of your fingers and the soles of your feet. Continue breathing this way for a few moments. Each inhale brings life into the pelvis. Each exhale spreads that life through the whole body. This is the beginning of the dissolution of the armor. Each time you practice this breath, you loosen one more thread of the armoring your nervous system has been building over the years. The second practice is conscious somatic mapping of your own body. You can do this practice clothed or unclothed, whatever feels right for you. The goal is simple and revolutionary at the same time, to inhabit your own body with attention, with curiosity, with gentleness. Most people living with chronic anxiety have a relationship of estrangement with their own body. The body has become a place of discomfort, of shame, of demand, of dissatisfaction. So this practice is about making peace with the territory you inhabit. Start with your hands. Pass the palms of your hands along your arms, slowly, with attention, not as a task, as a discovery. Feel the temperature of your own skin. Feel the texture. Notice if there is anywhere you feel tension, heaviness, numbness, without judgment. Just observe. Move your hands to your shoulders, your neck, your face. When you arrive somewhere that is tight, that is closed, place your palms there gently and say to yourself silently or in a low voice, I am here. I see you. It is safe to let go now. Continue moving down through the chest, through the abdomen. When you arrive at the belly, the navel, this central region of the body that is the seat of your personal power, breathe deeply and feel the warmth of your own hands as a gesture of self-love. Descend to the pelvis. This is the center of your life force, your creativity, your capacity to generate and to create. In the society that has learned to treat the pelvis as a place of shame, of sin, of something to be managed and controlled, this is a radical gesture. To place your hands on your own pelvis with love and say, I respect you. I care for you. You are sacred. The third practice is somatic pre-pleasure affirmations to reprogram the subconscious. The subconscious is not reprogrammed by words alone. It is reprogrammed by bodily states associated with words. This is why a positive affirmation said without feeling anything in the body has very little effect. What reprograms is the combination of the word with the bodily sensation. So before any experience of conscious pleasure, before you begin to touch yourself with therapeutic intention, you are going to create a bodily state of openness, of presence, and of worthiness, and associate that state with affirmations that install new patterns in the subconscious. Breathe deeply, using the pelvic breathing you just learned. With your eyes closed, place one hand on your heart and one hand on your pelvis. Feel the connection between these two centers, the center of love and the center of life force. Now, while holding that state of openness and breath, say to yourself with conviction, feeling each word in your body, I deserve to feel pleasure. Say it again. I deserve to feel pleasure. My pleasure is health. My pleasure is sacred. When I allow myself to feel, I heal. When I allow myself to feel, I create. When I allow myself to feel, I connect. My body is a safe place. My body is a place of wisdom. My sexual energy is my creative force. The more I cultivate my pleasure with consciousness, the more abundance, love, and vitality flow into my life. Feel these words not just in the mind, but in the body. Let them descend into the pelvis, into the chest, into the hands and feet. The subconscious learns through the somatic state. When you install these beliefs while in a state of openness, of pleasure, of full bodily presence, they settle far more deeply than any affirmation said in a mechanical way. The fourth practice is integrative post-orgasm visualization to install new mental patterns. This is one of the most powerful practices in this entire script, and it happens in the moments immediately following orgasm. The post-orgasmic state is one of the greatest states of subconscious receptivity that exists. The nervous system has just moved through a peak of activation, followed by a deep wave of relaxation. Dopamine and oxytocin are elevated. Cortisol has dropped significantly. The mind is fluid, open, receptive. This is the perfect moment to install the patterns you want to create in your life. While you are still in that state of lightness and relaxation that follows orgasm, instead of reaching for your phone, instead of distracting yourself, close your eyes. Breathe deeply. And now visualize, with as much detail as you can generate, the version of yourself you want to become. Not the version others expect of you, the version you feel in the deepest part of your heart is possible. The version that sleeps deeply and wakes with energy. The version that relates with love and clarity. The version that creates with ease and joy. The version that wakes in the morning with genuine gratitude for their own life. The version that looks in the mirror and feels respect and warmth for themselves. See this version of you in detail. Where are you? What are you wearing? Who is with you? What do you feel in your body as you live that life? Allow that image to install itself in your subconscious with all the force of the post-orgasmic state. Because your subconscious, in this moment, is listening with an attention you can rarely access in any other state. This practice, done with consistency, begins to reorganize your mental patterns from the inside out. The old programs of scarcity, of fear, of unworthiness, are gradually replaced by new patterns of abundance, of worthiness, of possibility. Not as an illusion, as real neurological reprogramming based on the most receptive states your nervous system can access. The fifth practice is the hypnagogic nightly ritual to work the subconscious before sleep. The hypnagogic state is that threshold between waking and sleep, those moments when you are still conscious but your body is already relaxing deeply, when images begin to arise spontaneously, when the mind starts to release its control. This state is a direct window into the subconscious. The beliefs and images you introduce in this state have a profound impact on the patterns your nervous system will consolidate during sleep. This practice is ideal to do exactly now, if you are listening before sleep. Lie down comfortably. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep pelvic breaths. On the first, inhale, bringing the air all the way down to the belly and release with a sigh. On the second, inhale, and as you release, imagine you are releasing the entire weight of the day. On the third, inhale, and as you release, imagine you are sinking into warm and quiet waters, and that those waters are your own deepest self. Now, as you move into this state of ever-deepening relaxation, begin to feel, not just imagine but feel, in the body, the pleasure of being alive. The simple pleasure of breathing, the pleasure of feeling the weight of your body against the bed, the pleasure of being here, now, present, whole, at peace. Let that pleasure expand in your chest, in your abdomen, in your pelvis, through your arms, through your legs. This pleasure does not need any external reason to exist. It is available in you at any moment you choose to inhabit it. As you feel that pleasure expanding, begin to say to yourself in a very low voice or only mentally, slowly and rhythmically, like a lullaby for your subconscious. I take care of myself. I choose to feel. I deserve every wave of pleasure that life offers me. My body is wisdom. My energy is sacred. As I sleep, my nervous system reorganizes. As I sleep, new patterns install themselves. As I sleep, I heal. When I wake tomorrow, I will be one step closer to the person I came here to be. Repeat these words or your own variations of them as you fall asleep. Let them become the last conscious thought before sleep arrives, because your subconscious does not stop when you sleep. It continues working, processing, organizing, creating. And the seed you plant at this threshold between waking and sleep is a seed that germinates in the most silent depths of your being. Now, I want to say something to you with all the seriousness and clarity of a health professional. Orgasm is not a luxury. It is not weakness. It is not deviation. It is not sin. Conscious orgasm is a fundamental human right and a first-order clinical tool for mental health. If I told you that you were neglecting a practice that reduces the risk of depression, of anxiety, of chronic inflammation, of cardiovascular disease, of insomnia, and of emotional isolation, you would pay attention. That is exactly what I am telling you. And I am saying it with the same seriousness with which a nutritionist speaks of diet, a cardiologist speaks of exercise, a psychiatrist speaks of sleep. There is a real cost, neurological, hormonal, relational, and existential, to living disconnected from your own pleasure. That cost shows up in the anxiety that will not respond to any breathing technique because the nervous system has never known the deep reset of conscious orgasm. It shows up in the fragmented sleep because the body has never moved through the complete cycle of arousal and release that full sexual response provides. It shows up in the relationships that repeat because the subconscious was never reorganized through the states of maximum receptivity that only conscious pleasure can access. It shows up in the blocked creativity because the energy that should flow freely has been dammed behind years of shame, repression, and mechanization. And there is an equally real gain in cultivating this practice with consistency and intention. People who learn to cultivate conscious orgasm as a therapeutic practice report significant improvements in sleep quality within weeks. They report reduction of background anxiety, that diffuse and nameless anxiety, because the nervous system learns to complete its regulation cycles. They report a greater capacity to feel pleasure in the small things of daily life, because dopamine receptors have been recalibrated to respond to the natural stimuli of living, rather than only to artificial hyperstimulation. They report transformations in relational patterns because the subconscious has begun to be reprogrammed from states of openness and worthiness rather than from scarcity and fear. They report expansion in creativity and in the capacity to generate, to create, to bring things into being, because the same energy that generates orgasm is the energy that generates ideas, projects, relationships, and abundance. This is not metaphor. It is the same transmutation of energy that Napoleon Hill described when studying the lives of the greatest achievers in history. It is the same life force that tantric traditions call Shakti, that the Taoists call Jing, that Reich called Orgone. When this energy flows with consciousness and intention, it does not only bring pleasure, it creates, it heals, it transforms. I want you to imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you took your sexual health with the same seriousness with which you take, or try to take, your nutrition and your exercise. If you had the same discipline and the same intention in your conscious pleasure practice that you have, or dream of having, in your meditation or your movement practice. Imagine that waking up and doing pelvic breathing was as natural as brushing your teeth, that cultivating conscious orgasm a few times a week was part of your health routine, as normalized as taking a vitamin. Imagine the nervous system you would have, the sleep quality, the emotional stability, the mental clarity, the capacity to create deep and loving bonds, the vitality you would feel in your body, the confidence you would feel in yourself. This is not fantasy. It is the documented result of a nervous system that has learned to regulate itself through the complete cycle of conscious pleasure. And now I invite you to a gesture of commitment to yourself, not to perfection, not to a rigid protocol, but to an honest decision that your sexual health is part of your health, that your pleasure is legitimate, that your body deserves attention, care, and presence, that you will no longer treat orgasm as a distraction or as a shame, but as a serious therapeutic tool that you include in your life with intention and respect. This gesture can be as simple as placing your hand on your heart right now and saying, out loud or in silence, with all the sincerity you can gather in this moment, I commit to my conscious pleasure, not as escape, but as encounter, not as addiction, but as care, not as shame, but as health. I commit to inhabiting my own body with attention and gentleness. I commit to cultivating my life force with consciousness and intention. I commit to treating my sexual health with the same seriousness with which I treat my mental, physical, and spiritual health, because they are the same health, because I am a whole being, and I deserve to live whole. Those who begin to cultivate this practice with seriousness report a strange and beautiful feeling some weeks later, the feeling that they are coming home, to the body that is their most faithful dwelling, to the pleasure that is their oldest right, to the vitality that was always there, waiting for them to have the courage to inhabit it. You are not the anxiety you feel. You are not the fatigue you carry. You are not the patterns that repeat. You are the life force running beneath all of it, the force that pulsed the moment you came into this world and has never stopped pulsing, even when you learned to ignore it, to suppress it, to feel ashamed of it. That force is here now. It is in your breath. It is in your pulse. It is in your capacity to feel, and it is completely available to you. Take care of yourself. Feel yourself. Heal yourself. You have the right to be fully alive inside yourself. Intimate alchemy. Mental health through orgasm. Transmute your life force into abundance, love, and complete fulfillment.